Good evening. The time is 5 p.m. and the Warwick City Council Finance Committee is now in session. I will make a motion for favorable action on the acceptance of the minutes for the meeting starting October 2nd, 2023.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For the record, Councilman Foley is not in attendance. I apologize. Councilman, I looked right at Councilman Foley as I said it. For the record, Councilman Gebhardt is not in attendance this evening. Councilwoman Travis has been kind enough to come up and volunteer her time on the committee. PCR 112-23, bid 1, 2024-248, purchase various portable police radios and supporting equipment. Good evening, Major. Please identify and you may begin.
Good evening, Major Andy Sullivan for the Police Department. The Police Department is requesting a 56-6 exception, a bid to purchase assorted police radios from Cyber Communications of Warwick, also known as Motorola Solutions. Motorola Solutions, doing business as Cybercom, is a sole source vendor of Motorola Solutions equipment, which our department uses. The total cost of the 28 various radios is $92,969.78, and if approved, would be funded from budget code 30-271, Police Communications of Radio.
Thank you, Major. Are there any questions from members of this committee? Questions from members of the council? Questions from members of the public? Questions from members of the public? Thank you, Major.
Thank you.
Item number 2 is bid 2024-223, crack ceiling contract. That is found on page 11. Good evening, Christy.
Good evening, Christy Moretti, Public Works. First off, I would like to request to amend this contract amount to $115,000, so that would be a $40,000 increase. The reason is that with the recent DOT funding and the 1/3 match, we can get more crack sealing done.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that again? I couldn't hear.
The recent DOT funding from the state allows us to do 1/3 more because they'll reimburse us for 1/3 of what we're asking. So that's why we're increasing the amount to accommodate that funding.
Thank you. So you're asking just for the increase because the state, this is the amount the state will authorize to reimburse us, which is 1/3 the bid amount.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Oh, I apologize. Let me back up. City Clerk, may I have a PCR?
PCR 11323.
Could you repeat that, please?
11323.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Are there any questions from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Christy, what was that amount that you wanted to increase it?
40,000.
An additional 40,000?
Yes.
Okay. And I can't make heads or tails of this bid, and I don't see any backup information in here. So what I don't understand is on the document that you provided, it says that PCRM is $12.47 a gallon. HIMA is 5.87. I can't find any comparative over here showing me what the state bid is. You do state in the cover letter that you're going this route because it was cheaper than going with the state bid. What is the state bid per gallon as well as per for the HIMA? I'm not even sure what that stands for, but what are the state bids for that? Because I can't find it in these documents that I have.
Our construction inspector did an analysis of the state bid and then compared it to the pricing that Indus was offering us. Indus's price per gallon has been stated at $12.47 a gallon, which comes to approximately 17 cents a linear foot. The current RIDOT MPA low bid has the cost of 30 cents a linear foot, which is almost double the price that we were offered by the vendor that we're requesting.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand a lot of what you said. So what is the state bid for the PCRM per gallon?
Well, it's 30 cents a linear. See, they don't have it broken down necessarily by the gallon like we do. We got a price per gallon and then by 17 cents a linear foot. The state MPA is 30 cents a linear foot. So
if you don't know how much a gallon it breaks out to, how am I supposed to know?
well, the price per linear foot is more expensive than the price that we're offered. So basically, what we pay for is the material they put on the ground by the linear foot. So
over here
we
you-
can either pay 30 cents a gallon for the state MPA, or
Yeah.
we can pay 17 cents a gallon for the request we're making. I mean, a foot, I'm sorry. 30 cents a foot or 17 cents a foot.
And who is 17 cents a foot?
The vendor that we're requesting, Indus.
And that 17 cents a foot breaks out to $12.47 a gallon?
Yes.
Okay. And the 30 cents a foot would obviously be higher than that.
Right.
Yeah. So it would have been helpful if that information were included in this.
Well, we included the information from the state bid as much as they had available on their website, and I'm, always available to answer questions during the day if you'd like to give me a call.
Yeah, no, I've heard all of that, and I've got the emails, and it doesn't always work out that way because if everyone keeps in mind something, when these things are posted on the Secretary of State's website, oftentimes it's a Thursday, and my constituents, as well as everyone else's constituents, don't always see it on Thursday. So I know I get calls through the weekend with questions about these things. So that formula or that demand doesn't always work out. Certainly doesn't work out for me. But I appreciate you answering the question tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the council on this bid? Are there any questions, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you, Chrissy. So because this is a PCR, I'm going to ask for a motion that on bid 2024-223, crack ceiling contract, that is now PCR 113-23. May I have a motion on the amendment?
Favorable action on the amendment.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. May I have a motion on PCR 113-23 as amended?
I move favorable action.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Bid 2024-116, firefighter occupational medical evaluations. This is a rebid. Good evening, Chief. Please.
Jason Umbenhauer, Assistant Chief of the Fire Department. Fire Department received 5 bids for firefighter occupational medical evaluations. We're recommending the bid be awarded to AtMed Treatment Center, serving out of East Greenwich, Rhode Island. This is a 1-year bid and amount not to exceed $70,000.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions from members of this committee? Questions, comments from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you. Hi, Chief.
Evening.
Chief, I see in the recommended award, it's the AtMed Treatment Center in Johnston. And then on the next document we have, it speaks to AtMed Treatment Center in East Greenwich. Could you explain why there's
Yeah, so
two different addresses here?
AtMed Treatment Center has locations in both Johnston and East Greenwich. Their headquarters and their main offices are in Johnston, so that's where the bid comes out of. But the location that we'll be utilizing is obviously the one right on the line here in Warwick at East Greenwich, right on Post Road.
Okay,
It's more convenient for our crews.
sure. Also, you indicate in your position paper that there were 5 vendors that submitted a bid, and I do not see the other vendors included in this package that we have. Were you instructed not to include those vendors?
I don't create the bid package.
Who does create the bid package? Is it purchasing?
Only purchasing does.
Is someone from purchasing here? I can't see behind the podium, so.
Hold on one second, Councilman. There isn't someone from the, would you mind please coming up to the podium, identifying yourself?
Francis Gomez, purchasing agent.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Director. So typically, when we have more than one vendor providing a bid, the other bids are included in our package. And this is for reasonings of individual council people being able to take a look at those vendors, take a look at those bids, analyze those bids, et cetera. Over the years, that has absolutely played a role in some substantial savings to the taxpayers. And now we have this document, I'm sure this is just the first one that I'm seeing, where the fire department indicates they had 5 other vendors. Those items, those other bids are not in this package. So did you instruct the fire department not to include those? And were you also instructed not to include those?
The actual bid submissions from the vendors were never included in any dockets before my time here or even during my time here. That's why on the cover page for this particular bid and any other bids that went out, it says any bid submissions, you will need to request that, and we will send that to you. And then we also received an email message from Councilman Howe saying that the pricing sheets are no longer needed to be added to the docket.
Okay? Maybe we're using different words. When you say bid submissions, what has been included in our bid package is when there are more than one bidder, there has always been a list of each bidders and what their bids were for each respective
So that is
item.
considered a pricing sheet.
Sorry?
That is considered a pricing sheet, and the bid submission is what the bidder submitted to us when we opened the bid. So that's the confusion there. The bid
Okay.
submission is what the vendor gives the fire department, the 5 bidders, correct? So then we take those prices and put it on a spreadsheet, which was always included on dockets before this. Then we received from the Finance Committee, Finance Chair, Councilman Howe, that sheet, pricing sheet, wasn't needed anymore. That we did not need to include that in the docket, and if it was needed or somebody wanted to see it, it would just simply be requested and it would be handed to them.
So that's why we don't have a copy of the other bids, so that we can, makes it a little bit easier for us when we're analyzing these things, if it's included.
And they are
But that's-
available.
May I finish, please?
Oh, I apologize.
Thank you. So going forward, we are not to expect to have any of that backup information.
Not in the docket, but it is
Sure.
readily available when needed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from members of the council on bid 2024-116? Any further bids on members of the public? Any further questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. Next is bid 2024-244, purchase of 2022 Bobcat compact loader model S740 Good evening, Major.
Good evening, Major Andy Sullivan for the Police Department. The Police Department is seeking a 56-6 exception to bid to purchase a used 2022 Bobcat compact loader from Bobcat of Rhode Island, located here in Warwick. The spending authority being sought is $50,000. The reason for the exception to bid is that we feel the price being offered by Bobcat Rhode Island is a good value and would be comparable, if not a better value, than if we had gone out to bid. If approved, funding would be split between previously approved APRA capital outlay funds and insurance proceeds.
Thank you, Major. And could you give us an example of what this would be used for within the department?
So on the surface, one might think, why does the police department need a Bobcat? However, it'd be tremendously helpful around the station between clearing snow, moving articles. It can move the vehicle carcasses that we have in the department that we harvest parts from. Those more frequently than we wish need to be relocated and moved and parts carried over. It can lift engines into one from one car into another, so on and so forth. Snow removal in the winter. We're infamous for getting our secondhand furniture from various sources. So we are constantly moving things that are very heavy and can help reduce any personnel injuries.
Makes all the sense. Thank you so much. And it maintains your self-reliance considering that you're a 24 hours, 365-day operation.
Yes, sir. It'd also be used to help, in addition, on loan to any other department that may need it for a short period of time. We also help remove the snow at the fire headquarters next to us. So,
Thank you so much, Major. Are there any questions, comments from members of this committee? Questions, comments from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you. Major, didn't we just approve, not that long ago, a new pickup for the police department with a plow?
yes, sir. That's on. That's further down on the docket. There's a.
It's for what, please?
That's further down on tonight's itinerary. There's a 612. We're just switching the vehicles.
Okay, so that's on the other bid. That's the pickup truck you're talking about.
We did previously get approved to purchase I believe it was 2024 Chevy Silverado.
Okay. I also noticed too, I'll just kind of put this out there. In the bid that you put here for the new Bobcat of $100,856, in addition to that price being double the price of the one that you're going to get, there's two options that were not included in that $100,000 price tag as well, right?
Yes, this one happens to have some. It's upfitted a little bit, I guess, more than a normal Bobcat would be, and the
Right.
Bobcat Rhode Island's also given us complimentary set of forks.
And that's
As is-
all part of the deal with your
It's all part of
Bobcat.
the deal. It has a 72-inch bucket, and there's one more thing I'm forgetting at
Yeah,
this
it's
point.
a 4K heavy-duty pallet fork frame and
The
a
fork.
48-inch heavy-duty pallet fork teeth.
Yes, that's it.
All
Yeah.
sounds kind of dangerous, so it probably does belong in the police department.
Yeah.
How many vehicles do you have sitting in the graveyard over there now?
At our headquarters, I would estimate maybe 5 to 10. We have some that are over at Range Road at that location there. We're also repurposing vehicles to other city departments routinely.
And sometimes don't accident vehicles end up getting towed to the police department too? Does that happen?
Yes, if we exercise the salvage on it, which we often do because they're usually rich in parts, that ends up at our headquarters. That's another example of a vehicle that we constantly, not constantly, but we're often moving and moving again just to make space, or we need to take it out to take parts off of it because it's in a confined space. So this is when the Bobcat would come in handy.
Right.
It can move them around efficiently.
Okay, thank you. I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further questions, comments from members of this council? Questions, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. That concludes the items that were over the 50,000 limit and or threshold. And now we move on to the remainder of the bid docket. And I will go from the committee to the council to the public. If there is any item, specific item that a member of the council would like, or a member of the committee, council, and public would like to pull for discussion, I'll go first. Item bid 2024-245, found on page 79. That is monthly service and maintenance for composting toilets. I will call on that one. Is there anything from members of this committee? Oh, okay. Thank you.
I'll
give it to you.
243, item 6.
Item number 6, 2024-243. Go ahead.
Speed alert 24 radar message center.
Found on page 33. Thank you so much. Council President McAllister.
I believe Mr. Foley just pulled the same one, page 33, the speed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. I'll also pull the 2024-246.
That is the purchase of the 2008 HME 1500 GPM pumper.
Yes.
I'm found on page 76. Thank you, Councilman. Is there any other item from members of the council? Councilman Lattisaur.
I'd like to pull item number 5, 2024-247, found on page 27, purchase 1 test cancer screening kits. I would also like to pull item number 7, found on page 69, overhead door repairs. And item number 11, 2024-158, purchase various new police vehicles.
So in review, you would like to discuss 2024-247 and found on page 27, 2023-318 Alpha found on page 69, and 2024-158 found on page 96.
That's correct.
Thank you. Are there any items that members of the public would like to pull for discussion? Are there any items that members of the public would like to pull from the bid package for discussion? Thank you. So we'll just go in order. We'll start with the first item, which is 2024-247, purchase 1 test cancer screening kits. This is found on page 27. Chief, if you don't mind identifying, and then Councilman Lattiser, you'll have the floor.
Jason Obenauer, Assistant Chief of the Fire Department.
Thank you. Chief, with this test, I know that in your position paper, you had stated it is believed to be the only blood test available in the USA. Is this something that's been confirmed? Is this in fact the only company in the country that can do this test?
It is not, and I don't believe that's in my position paper. Where are you reading that in my position paper?
It's what, please?
I said it is not, and I don't believe that's in the position paper that I put. Do you have it? Show me where you're seeing
I
that.
stand corrected, Chief. Okay, this comes from 2020 Jenny Systems. Notice of sole source. I'm sorry, I apologize. It was not from you. But they are saying, they state it is believed to be the only blood test available. And you just clarified that, to your knowledge, that's not the case. Is that what I just heard?
Can you reference where you're reading that in the sole source letter?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, if I may approach the chief?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, okay. No, so I see it. Yep, second paragraph. So if you read the rest of the paragraph, it says it's believed to be the only blood test available in the USA for screening.
Chief, if I can interrupt, what page are you on?
I'm sorry. I am,
31.
I don't know on the bid docket. Let me read on the bid docket.
Page 31, Chairman.
Thank you. So page
Correct.
31, second paragraph, is that it?
Yep. So it talks about, it says, it is believed to be the only blood test available in USA for screen of multiple cancers that is powered by a machine learning algorithm built with cancer outcome data from over 200,000 individuals previously tested. So their claim is not that they're the only one, but they're the only one that uses that algorithm with the 200,000 individuals. That's the claim.
So,
There are two that we know of.
There
This and the
are other-
Grail test, yes.
and these other testing labs, would their test results be as accurate?
I believe the Grail test is more accurate as far as from what we understand. It's a little more specific than this one.
And the thing that I'm confused with is you're looking for this testing to be done biannually, correct?
Correct. So
On a
the contract
biannual
requires
basis.
us to do it every 2 years, and the first one to be completed by the fall of 2023.
But isn't biannual twice a year?
I think that's biennial.
Right, that's what this says. It says screening to all employees on a biannual basis.
So it's going to be done every other year is by contract. I'm not an English major, but I believe the
I know, I
hyphen
was-
is the difference.
I was confused with that as well, and I looked up the definition, and the definition says biannual is twice a year. I was under the same impression as you. Biannual means like every other year.
So I quoted that out of the contract, I believe. So I know it's every other year.
Okay,
That's the way that it was intended in the contract.
all right.
The way
so,
it's interpreted.
This will be a once-a-year test, because then that, you just answered my next question problem, is with 213 tests, doing it biannually, that comes out to 60,000, not 30,000.
No, we want to do, we're going to do this once this fall, and we won't do it again until the fall of 2025.
Okay. Thank you for that. This test is, and I understand the necessity for it, the rationale and the reasoning. Is this going to be something that is mandatory for every firefighter, that they must take this test? Or is this going to be similar to the medical evaluations where it's voluntary? They can take it or not take it?
So medical evaluations are not voluntary. They're mandated by state law. This test is completely voluntary. We cannot force them. They have the option to be able, at the cost of the city, to be have the cancer screening performed.
Okay.
So we're going to find out, get confirmation from each of the firefighters as to who wants the test, and then we'll order that amount of kits. The price that I gave you, the $30,000, would be the most that we would spend. That would be the upper limit.
So you're basing your request in a, I know some people terminology conservative differently, but you're playing it on the safe side. You're saying that, we're going to assume every firefighter is going to require this test, which is a fair assumption. Okay.
Correct. We don't want to say worst case scenario because I don't want to use that terminology in this case.
That's why I said a fair assumption.
Correct.
At the end of page 29, which is the quote from one test, it has additional services, MD integration, telemedicine services, $15 a person, phlebotomy, blood draw services, $65 an hour. Do you anticipate any of that having to be done?
No, we don't require any of that stuff. So the way that we formulated this is that we are going to do it in coordination with our medical exam. And that's why we held off on rebidding the medical exam. So we put in the specifications for those occupational evaluations that they also draw the blood for this screening if requested. So we don't need to do any of the processing work. The AtMed Medical, who's going to do our medical exams, is going to draw those additional blood samples for us and process those samples.
Okay. And the last question, and I ask it every time these issues come up, has the fire department ever approached, in our case, I believe it's the trust that has our healthcare now, approached them to give us a cost of including this in our healthcare coverage. I don't understand why these items, the medical examinations that are required for the firefighters, in this case here, the cancer screening tests that are contractually required, I don't understand why that isn't included in our healthcare premium.
That would be outside of my authority to speak directly to the trust about healthcare issues. I believe that would fall more on personnel or the administration.
So to your knowledge, and I don't mean this from a critical point either, to your knowledge, the fire department has not requested through the administration to get this coverage provided?
So I believe we have a paper or a position statement from Blue Cross Blue Shield back dated probably 2019, 2020, that specifically states that required occupational medical evaluations are not included as part of the healthcare package for individuals. And that's when we went through several years of we didn't have this bid in place because of the questions surrounding that. That's the final statement that actually ended that practice and started us to be able to bid this and resume those required examinations.
Sure. Well, I would like to suggest that the next time the plans come up for negotiations, that this subject is broached and that the healthcare provider, whether it be Blue Cross or anyone, be required to provide an alternate pricing structure for this coverage that's very necessary and needs to be paid for. Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from members of this committee? Questions, comments from members of the council? Questions, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. Next is bid 2024-243, Speedy Alert 24 radar message sign, and that is requested by Councilman Foley. And if I may have the major introduce himself, and then Councilman, you have the floor.
Major Andy Sullivan, Warwick Police Department.
Thank you, Major. Just a quick question. Do we currently have these type of signs in the city?
We have two message boards that also do radar. They're merely kind of awareness boards more than they're not used for enforcement.
So are these the sleds or are these the ones on the telephone poles?
No, right on the trailer. This is a trailer type that you
Okay.
might see out on the side of Narragansett Parkway or wherever.
Yep. Across from my house
Right there,
for the
yes.
last month. All right, thank you very much. That's my only question.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. Questions from members of the committee? Council President McAllister.
Thank you. Good evening, Major.
Good evening.
These, we see them around the city. Can you just explain exactly what they do? The fact that they're on the trailer, they can go to different neighborhoods and stuff like that. Every council person gets calls about speeding in the neighborhoods and different things like that. Are these like some of the previous ones we had before that can also record and help with data and stuff when we're doing the traffic studies?
Yes, that's it can collect data on speeds and average speeds and so on and so forth. Again, it's not a covert enforcement tool. It's merely a public advisory tool, just to remind people to slow down, but it does collect data for statistics to see if there really is a problem in that area or if it's possibly over-reported by local residents.
Yeah, no, these are very important. Just like you said, we understand that you put it out there, people will slow down because they'll see it and they under it. But just the data that you get from it, everybody thinks their street is the busiest street in Warwick, and you can say, well, we had it out there for X amount of days, and this is how many go. And even I've seen them on the reports before. The average speed, the highest speed, the lowest speed, and different things like that. So these are good. We love that they can get around and on the trailers. Unfortunately, I know in past years, we've had accidents with them, people crashing into them and stuff like that. Yes. So hopefully not. But I just wanted to point that out, that it's not just a messaging thing, that it also provides data and information, and we can get them around the entire city because, speeding in the neighborhoods is just an issue. that we all face. And I tell the constituents all the time, you know who's speeding in the neighborhood? The neighbors.
Yeah.
So, we gotta all remember that. So anything that we can do, but these things, they're important, and it's just another tool that's available. So just wanted you to explain and give additional detail. So thank you, Major.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilman Lattisaw.
Thank you, Chairman. I also echo the council president's comments. As a matter of fact, I received about 3 or 4 calls over the weekend in my area about speeding. It's the same roads, it's probably the same people. And I personally would like to see the police department requesting more of these sleds. I know that we had conversations about that several years ago. And if I remember, I think one of the problems was storage of these particular pieces of equipment, as well as, of course, the pricing on them. I think the pricing may have even come down a tad, but these are extremely valuable to all of us. We have 9 wards. There's probably, I don't know, I'm going to guess 20,000 streets in the city. And we were all, having our hands out, we want this here, we want this there. You can only do so much with 3. So I, for one, for whatever it's worth, I would absolutely support adding to that complement of those sleds, because I think they do serve, even if it's temporary, they do serve a purpose on slowing some of these people down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments, questions from members of the council? Questions, comments from members of the public? Questions or comments from members of the public? Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is, thank you, Major. Bid 2023-318 Alpha, overhead door repairs and replacement. This has been requested by Councilman Lattiser. Christie, after you introduce.
I'm all set on that, Chair.
You're all set? Are there any further, since I called it, I'm just going to go through are there any questions, comments from members of the committee? Questions, comments from members of the council? Question, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Next is bid 2024-246, purchase 2008 HME 1500 GPM pumper. This is requested by Councilman Ricks. Chief, please identify, then Councilman Ricks, you'll have the floor.
Good evening, Chief Peter McMichael from the Fire Department.
Good evening. Yeah, this stood out to me because it's a pumper truck with, from reading the position paper, less than 100,000 miles on it. 2008. That would be bought from the city of Cranston at $7,000. Strikes me as an incredibly good deal. So I wanted to ask a question. Is there any catch here?
No, there's not, Councilman. It is a good deal. We were contacted by the Cranston Fire Chief. They were getting ready to send this truck to auction and offer it up to us. Originally, they were asking $10,000 for it. We negotiated the $7,000. We do have another reserve truck that we plan on having to mothball. It's got some structural issues that's not worth putting money into. So this will replace another reserve. We had our DPW automotive repair technicians view the truck. It had been the engine had been rebuilt not that long ago. So it was a worthy investment for the $7,000, and it'll augment our reserve fleet.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And thank you for, even though, $10,000 seems pretty reasonable, negotiating, getting it down to 7, and making sure that we have a good truck in reserve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Are there any questions, comments from members of the committee? Questions, comments from members of the council? Questions, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? Thank you. Thank you, Chief. The next item that is being requested is by myself and Councilwoman, I apologize, Travis. I am going to defer to Councilwoman Travis on this. So this will be 2024-245, monthly service and maintenance for composting toilets. Chrissy, if you please identify, then Councilwoman, it is your floor.
Christy Moretti, Public Works.
Thank you. Hi, Chrissy.
Hi, Councilwoman.
Now, in here, it says that this was cleaning for City Park. So this bid just for City Park?
Yes, the 3 composting toilets that are located near the ball fields, that's for service for those 3 units.
Okay, and it does, excuse me, it does say once a month?
So we clean them. The department cleans them. They come
Okay,
in once a
oh.
month and they take care of like the liquid in the tank and
Oh, all
They-
right,
they
that's
do-
what threw me off, especially
do-
City Park in the summer, once a month? I'm
yeah,
going,
no, they
think
do
so.
that part of it.
Okay, okay, and all right, I understand that now, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And you requested that this also have a PCR attached?
Yes, I would like to amend the request for this from a 1-year bid to a 2-year bid and increase the amount from $6,200 to $12,000. According to the on-site wastewater treatment system mandated by DEM, we're required to have a 2-year contract in place.
Thank you. Now, I'm going to do some house cleaning real quick. So may I have a PCR from the city clerk? PCR 114-23. The second question, Christie, is this bid is for 6,200, but you just want to increase it, not exactly double it. You want to increase it just another additional 6,000?
Yes,
Okay. So we're going to go from 6,200, which is the original, to 12,000. And so therefore, an increase of 5,800.
yes.
Okay. Bear with me 1 second. And what was I apologize. Mr. President? Yes, that's 5,800. Thank you. And could you please, the last sentence you said, the 2 years is required, that part right there, please
Yes.
repeat that?
We are required by the DEM maintenance of on-site wastewater treatment systems to have a valid maintenance contract at all times for a minimum term of 2 years.
Thank you. So I will be asking questions on the information that was provided by Christie. Are there any questions from members of this committee? Are there any questions from members of the council? Are there any questions, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? So if I may have a motion to amend bid 2024-245 to, that is now PCR 114-23, from $6,200 to $12,000.
So moved.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. True. Thank you. So that would also include, solicitor, just for, I did not verbally say the 2 years. Should I just ask for another motion?
Yes.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask again for an motion to amend bid 2024-245, now PCR 114-23, from $6,200 to $12,000 from 1 year to 2 years.
I move as amended. No, I'm sorry, move the amendment as read.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion on PCR 114-23, increasing it from 5,800, increasing it to an additional 5,800, and increasing the years from 1 to 2 as amended?
I move favorable action as amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christie. Next, the item that we will discuss is bid 2024-158, purchase various new police vehicles. This is requested by Councilman Lattiser. This is found on page 96. Major, after you identify, Councilman Lattiser, you have the floor.
Major Andy Sullivan for the Police Department.
Thank you, Chairman. Major, this was something that I just noticed earlier today when I was reviewing this. So this 2024 Chevrolet Silverado, Am I correct when I say we have not received that vehicle as yet?
That's correct. Even more so, it's not even built, doesn't even have a VIN number. The UAW strike has basically put that in a holding pattern for now.
Say that again. I didn't hear that last part.
The auto workers strike has affected that vehicle
Okay.
particularly. It had not yet been built anyway, and then I believe the auto strike started to gain some momentum, and it's going to be a long, long time before that vehicle ever sees the ground.
And that was what you were making reference to when you were saying due to unforeseen developments?
Yes, that and after this bid was previously approved, this various vehicles bid, our fleet manager became aware that there was F-350 on the lot at a different dealership that was available immediately.
At a better price?
Yeah, slightly
and a
better
heavier
price.
duty truck? You went from a 2500 to an F-350?
Yes.
Works for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Further questions, comments from members of this committee? Questions, comments from members of the council? Questions, comments from members of the public? Questions, comments from members of the public? May I have a motion on PCR 112-23?
Move favorable action.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. May I have a motion for acceptance of the minutes for the meeting held on October 2nd, 2023?
So moved.
I second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's okay. I have 2 ayes, 1 absent. The time is now 5:46 and the Warwick Finance Committee is closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next committee to meet is the Ordinance Committee, and that can start at 6 p.m. We will see you then.
Ordinance Committee will convene at 6:05 PM. First thing on the docket is acceptance of minutes from the committee meeting held on October 2nd, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Next,
uh,
was that? Yeah, October?
I'm confusing myself, sorry.
No worries. Next is PCO 2123, an ordinance amending Chapter 48, Article 3 of the City of Warwick Code of Ordinances to provide retirement health insurance coverage to employees that enter service with the city in a union position, subsequently taking a non-union position, and establish at least 10 years of credible service. This is Councilman Howe on behalf of Mayor Pacozzi. This would be first passage. And my understanding is that this is being withdrawn at the request of the sponsor. Is that correct, Councilman Howe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes.
Alrighty, so I will move to withdraw. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that appears to conclude ordinance committee at 6:06 PM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next committee to meet is the Public Safety Committee, and that can meet at 6:10.
Committee is called to order at 6:10. First item is the acceptance of minutes from committee meeting held on October 2nd. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
The second item is PCR 63-23 Leah De Leon claim. I just want to make a comment to start. I docketed this for reconsideration in the abundance of caution. And we were notified by the claimant that they had not received notification that their claim was denied or was going to be denied, and they could appear. So we resent it. And could you please come to the podium and identify yourself, please? Sarge is not nearby.
Hi.
Good
Yes,
evening. Identify yourself, please.
Leah DeLeon.
The issue or the reason for the denial or recommendation for denial, specifically the photo of the pothole, they could not determine where that pothole was. And again, overdoing it, I rode out there knowing exactly where you were talking about and saw the area. Did you ever follow up, or did you send additional information about the location? Were you notified why your claim was being denied?
So I sent everything to Lynn that I had printed. When you originally denied me, I never received anything saying I was denied. I never even received anything telling me that I had like a chance to appear. I only knew about this time. But I mean, I had a brand new car at the time, and I did send a picture of it. I have it here of like,
Could you
it was
speak into the mic a little?
Oh, sorry.
That's better. You can bend
So-
that down. You can bend that down for yourself. There you go.
So it was actually 2 tires. I only submitted the claim for one, but they both blew out. One I was able to patch, the other one I couldn't. But this happened, right when I got the car that first week. But like I said on it, I was just coming off of Lincoln Avenue going back to work. And when I was on Post Road, I hit the hole, and that's when it occurred. And I immediately had to just drive down the street to Sullivan, because once it happened, the tire pressure just kept going all the way down. So I wouldn't have made it. I would have had to get towed to Sullivan. So thankfully, they were down the road and could take me when they did.
Any questions from members of the committee? Go ahead, Councilman Ricks.
Yes.
Thank you for coming this evening. Yeah, so I'm also familiar with Lincoln Ave. It's in Ward 3, not Ward 2, but yeah, I frequently drive on Lincoln Ave. I see those kinds of potholes. It was April. That's often before the DPW gets out there and addresses all of those. So yeah, everything seems credible to me here. I see why the DPW may have initially denied it based on, the photo. It shows the pothole up close, which is a good thing, but sometimes it's helpful to also have I suppose for members of the public here in the audience, or more likely listening in on YouTube or the live stream, for these kinds of claims, it can be helpful to have a shot of the pothole up close, plus one that kind of shows the surrounding area to show exactly where it is. But yeah, looking through the claim here, it seems to me that this was timely reported. I'm seeing some documentation that shows exactly when this happened. So yeah, as I see it, everything is in order here. I would, after, of course, comment from any other members of the council and public, I think that it would be appropriate, based on the documentation in front of us, the lowest of the estimates and invoices provided would be $297.04. Per our procedure, I would be comfortable in approving in that amount, although the invoice is $1.33 higher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from the council? Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also had similar concerns with this particular item. As you know, I was not here at the last meeting. I did hear about it, and I still do not see a police report included in this packet. And in addition to that, the claimant just stated that both of her front tires were low on air. So does that mean the tire on the passenger side was different than on the driver's side? They're both low on air. And in this photograph that I'm looking at, I can't tell if there's any damage to the tire that warranted changing the tire. There's no description in here from any professional about that. And the other thing that I particularly object to is in this claim for $297, which DPW, I think that they made the right decision in recommending denial. But this claim of $297.04, it includes road hazard protection. Why should the taxpayers have to pay for road hazard protection? It's not a big dollar issue. This whole thing isn't a big dollar issue, but it is a point issue. It is about setting precedents, and it is about taxpayer dollars. Now, $33 may not be a lot to some people, but to a retired senior who's living on minimum Social Security monies, that is a lot of money. And I object having to pay for road hazard protection, particularly because there's been no proof submitted that we see that the tire was in fact damaged.
So the
So
tire
that's
was
where
damaged.
Excuse me, you go through the chair.
So, Mr. Chairman, that's where I am with this, and we'll see where it goes. Thank you.
You wanted
So
to make
the
a statement.
tire did blow out. That's why I had to drive down. The other tire had a nail in it. In the following morning, I saw it and they patched it. And I did notify the police that day, and they said they will not give me a report for it, but it's on record with them.
Mr. Chairman, so once again, the claimant just testified that she had a blowout. You don't drive 3 hours on a blowout. There was 3 hours of time lapse from the time that this accident occurred, this alleged incident occurred at 1:30 in the afternoon.
I went right to Sullivan.
Councilman,
Hold on.
continue.
Thank you. Hold on 1 minute. So on 4/14 from Sullivan Tire, that was the claimant was there at 4:41. That's at Sullivan Tire at 4:41. That's 3 hours later. When I look at Firestone, I don't see the time, but the date stamp is 8/27 on Firestone's date stamp, or at least the date stamp that's on this item right here. The invoice was emailed on April 26th. So I'm assuming that the tire was not blown out, because I don't see any towing invoice in here. And if it was a blown out tire, I would imagine that the vehicle would be towed. And that doesn't seem to be the case. And here we are from 4/14 to 4/26, which, by the way, that was a quote on 4/26. This is not, as you see, it says down below, this is not an invoice. It was a quote on 4/26. So none of this makes any sense to me. And for me, I'm going to be sticking with the director's position on this based upon all of that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hit it. The pressure was going down and I drove down the street and they repaired it and I left probably at whatever time that says.
Okay,
The car literally went right to Sullivan.
thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? I'll get back to you, Councilman. Any other comments or questions from the public? I'll go back to the committee one time. Councilman Ricks.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, based on the claimant's testimony and looking over the documentation, it appears from my review of the documentation that the date and time would, on the Sullivan Tire invoice, that's on the one marked page 1 in the top right, but which is actually the 5th page in our packet. I think that it is consistent with getting that vehicle immediately on over to the Sullivan Tire, and then the invoice being generated at that time of 4:41 p.m., about 3 hours afterwards. I don't think that the tire would be replaced here, a tire that's less than a year old based on it being a 2023 model year car with, or at least approximately a year old or less, 2023 model year car that was, this incident occurred in April of 2023. So I see it as consistent. I think that Councilman Lattiser does raise a good point when it comes to that lowest of the 3 estimates, also including the charge of, let's see, yeah, the charge of $33.45 for the protection plan. So I suppose then that makes the lowest of the 3 estimates weigh in at $263.59. So I suppose that's a valid point there. I hate to kind of nickel and dime like that, but I think that that would be the amount most consistent with our procedures.
So
That's all my
Councilman
comments for now.
Ricks, are you making a motion?
Mr. Chairman, may we have a rebuttal on that, please?
I'm sorry, can you?
May I have a rebuttal to
You may,
Councilman's
sir.
testimony? So, Councilman Ricks, so you're referring to the invoice from Town Fair Tire. Town Fair Tire is not an invoice. It's an estimate. And Town Fair Tire on Jefferson Boulevard, I would point out, is right around the corner from where this alleged pothole incident was. It's not 3-hour drive, it's around the corner. So you drive from there to Town Fair Tire, which is about maybe 15 minutes away at best. It doesn't take 3 hours to get an estimate. This is also talking about awarding the bid from Firestone. Firestone's appraisal wasn't done until April 26th. That's my point. Do you drive around on a blown out tire from the 14th to the 26th? I don't think so. Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilman Ricks, do you have a motion, please?
I'll make a very brief comment and then I'll move. So let's see, specifically looking at page 5. Page 5 is Sullivan Tire, and that one is an invoice. It's marked as such. That's the one that gives the time and date of 4/14/23 at 4:41 in the afternoon. I do see the other 2 items. Those are estimates from Town Fair Tire and from Firestone, respectively, and it makes perfect sense to me that estimates can be obtained after that point in time. We often do see that with this committee. So I don't think that, yeah, the dates of those 2 estimates, those don't make any difference to me. The key is in corroborating and in finding the claimant credible. The Sullivan Tire invoice dated that same day, 3 hours later, 3 hours later after she states that the incident happened in her report. So based on all of that, and based on the comments raised by Councilman Lattiser as to that protection or road hazard plan, and deducting that amount from the lowest of the three estimates, I only used the Town Fair Tire estimate for that purpose of determining the lowest of the three in accordance with our procedure. I would therefore move for approval in the amount of $263.59.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The Public Safety Committee is closed at 6:26.
Thank you.
Ms. De Leon.
Next up is the Intergovernmental Committee, and it is in order to proceed.
Which one's next? I don't know. Let me. Yep, I'm here. Oh, joy.
It was nice meeting with you.
What's snappy? All right.
It is now 6:27 and the Intergovernmental Committee is now in session. The first order of business is the acceptance of minutes from the October 2nd, 2023 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The first item on the agenda is PCR 109-23, a resolution to the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management approving the City of Warwick's submission to the 2024 Outdoor Recreation Grant Program. Councilman Foley?
I request favorable action. This is so we can submit for grants for various projects within our wards.
Okay. Any other comments from the committee? Councilman Lattiser?
I support it. I'm real good with this one. You got no arguments from me on this one, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Nope.
Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Move favorable action. Oh, second.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. The second order of business is PCR 111-23, resolution relative to the city council meeting calendar for 2024. Council President McAllister?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do this every year, set the meeting dates for the following year. Just a couple of notes. You'll see some stars if a meeting is different than the first and the third Monday. If Labor Day is on that Monday, won't have a meeting. We try to make sure that the February and the April, there's no meeting during the school vacation week. So that's of note. And we started this last year. I thought it worked out pretty well. We put the budget hearings on here as well, so everybody can plan for it with plenty of time. So that's why May looks like it has additional meetings. Those are the budget hearings. And that's all I have.
Questions or comments from the committee? From the council?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm glad to see this calendar out early, actually. So this way here, I can make sure I plan my next trip to Disney World with my grandbabies, so I don't have to miss a second meeting in my 11-year career. But my grandbabies appreciate it, so thank you all for your indulgence.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Favorable action.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is now 6:30 and the Intergovernmental Committee is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next meeting, the committee will be Public Properties, and that can take place at 6:40. We will see you at 6:40.
Okay, the City Council Committee on Public Properties, Land Use, and Community Affairs comes to order at 6:40 p.m.
Yep.
First, we have the acceptance of minutes from the committee meeting held on October 2nd, 2023. Do we have a motion?
Move favorable action.
Do we have a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda, PCO 20-23. This is Councilman McElroy. An ordinance amending the City of Warwick zoning ordinances Celco Partnership, DBA, Verizon Wireless, applicant. This is Assessor's Plat 332, lots 396, 397, 402, 403, and 470 Winter Avenue, off Loring Avenue. This is first passage, public hearing. Let's see, Councilman McElroy, any recommendation?
Yes, I recommend favorable passage.
This is for favorable passage for public hearing. So let's see, Council Solicitor, shall we move for a public hearing?
Yes.
Yeah, rather move to the full council, rather? Okay, thank you. All right. Do we have a motion for public hearing before the full council?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that'll be on the agenda, City Council at 7. Okay, and similarly, rather, this one is not on for public hearing. So second up, we have PCR 110-23, Councilman McElroy on behalf of Mayor Picozzi. This is a resolution authorizing a telecommunications tower lease at Clegg Field with Celco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless. Recommendation, Councilman McElroy.
Favorable action, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any comments? Members of the committee? Comments? Members of the council? Comments? Members of the public? Hearing none, I'll simply briefly state that I've reviewed this packet. I'm sure that Councilman McElroy has been in contact with the administration on this. And yeah, it seems to me straightforward. Is there any comment or discussion from the administration on this? Yeah, seeing no questions from the council or members of the public, do we have a motion?
Motion for favorable action.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there being no further business, the committee adjourns at 6:43 p.m.
That concludes all that concludes all committee work this evening. We'll be here at the full council at 7 p.m.
Good evening, everyone. I call the Warwick City Council meeting for October 16th, 2023 to order. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. McAllister?
Here.
Mr. Foley? Mr. Gephardt? Mr. Howe?
Here.
Mr. Lattiser?
Here.
Mr. McElroy?
Here.
Mr. Ricks?
Here.
Mr. Sinapi? Ms. Travis?
Here.
8 present.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to have the Northeast Family Martial Arts come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Here's the flag. Okay, you guys can watch around a little bit so they can all hear you on the mic. All right. Whoever your main person with the big voice. All right, it's got the big voice here. Wants to lead us to the pledge. Trying to talk right into this area, okay? Samantha. Go ahead. Samantha was wrong. No, you can all do it. Just talk into the mic. You guys can all do it. Go ahead. Go on. You guys know the pledge of allegiance. Ready? All right. Whenever you're ready. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright shines and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bomb bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Daniel from the Northeast Family Martial Arts and his team here. They're going to give us a presentation. This month is Anti-Bullying Prevention Month. So, sir, if you want to introduce yourself and speak right into the microphone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Hello, my name is Daniel Luzzy, and as Mr. McAllister said, I am from Northeast Family Martial Arts in Coventry. We've been running a martial arts school since 1985, so we know quite a bit about this, and we're trying to help our community with bullying. Again, we are located in Coventry, and this month at my school, we are dedicated to helping our students learn bully prevention skills in honor of National Bully Prevention Month. We are offering free classes for the whole month of October because we feel that every child should have an opportunity to learn how to defend themselves or prevent bullying from happening altogether. I think we can all agree that bullying is an epidemic that can only be helped by a community of people. This includes martial arts schools, school systems, sports programs, and anywhere else a child might be bullied. The system we use to teach bully prevention at our school is called HELP. This is an acronym that stands for H, have a plan. Our first step is to encourage families to have conversations about bullying. This can be a sensitive subject for families, but we want them to be comfortable talking about it. With our help, we can make sure that families have a plan to prevent bullying, just like they would have a fire escape plan in place at home. Part of our plan is to teach children what bullying looks like so they can take appropriate action. E stands for elevate your awareness. After we teach the children what to look for, we want them to be aware of their surroundings, especially high-risk areas such as recess, away from adult aides, bathrooms, bus stops, the bus, etc. Really anywhere that a child could be alone or in small numbers with no supervision. The L stands for learn to ask for help. Perhaps this is the most important part. It is estimated that 160,000 children miss school every day due to fear of an attack or intimidation from another student. 1 in 5 students reports being bullied. 90% of 4th to 8th graders report being bullied. And 56% of students have personally witnessed someone being bullied at school. We need to let people know that not only is it okay to ask for help, but they should ask for help. Children may not ask for help because they are scared they will look weak, or maybe they made a mistake in the response to being bullied, so they are scared to tell someone in fear they will get in trouble. We need to let our children know that this is more than okay to tell us what's happening. If we know, we can help respond appropriately if a situation escalates to a physical confrontation. Lastly, the P stands for protect your mind and body. I think we can all agree the effects of emotional bullying harm people way more than the effects of physical bullying. Part of our strategy is to help children become more confident and have self-esteem. If they have the right tools, they will never let someone else make them feel inferior. We want our children to have compassion for bullies and be able to walk away. If a child believes the harsh words of another, that can lead to damaging effects that can follow them for the rest of their lives. And the final step, once all the proper measures have been taken, and only then do we teach students that they have a right to defend themselves. No tolerance rules put in place by the school systems lead children to believe that they cannot put their hands on another child. To a point, we agree, but at the end of the day, if a person is in danger, they have the human right to protect themselves. Everyone does. The techniques we teach, for the most part, are not to harm, but to restrain and call for help. In closing, the best way we can help is to put children in environments that encourage and that build confidence and self-esteem. If there's anything we can do to further help our community to put an end to bullying, let us know, and we would love to help. I would like everyone to stand, or you can stay seated if you like, and repeat the bully pledge. This is something we've had go out to the school systems and people sign. So if you'd like to stand and repeat the bully pledge, I'm going to have some students from my dojo go ahead and read the bully pledge. First up is Rocco.
I believe everyone has the right to feel safe. I will stand strong against bullying. I will treat others with respect and kindness. I will not be a bully.
I will not be a bystander.
I will help others who are being bullied.
I will tell a teacher and parent when I see it or when it happens to me. I will not stand by. I will stand up.
We give the kids a round of applause. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank the city of Warwick for having me, and Mr. McAllister, I'd like to thank you for having me as well. And thank you again.
Thank you very much, Renchi, and thank you, children. A very important message, and we really appreciate you coming out tonight. So thank you.
Mr. President, I apologize. Is there a way we could have a copy of that bullying pledge, or I could request that?
Sure, we can get that for you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Yep. Next up is general communications. This is the announcement of congratulations, condolences, or community events. I have one. Happy to announce that the playground here in Apponaug is open. We're going to have a ribbon cutting for it tomorrow at 3:30, so all are welcome. The playground's been open for about a week now, and it is busy. People are really enjoying it, and I think we should be really proud of that. So if you're available, please bring your kids. 3:30 tomorrow for the ribbon cutting here in Apponaug. Are there any other council members that have any other announcements of congratulations, condolences, or community events? Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple community events I'd like to mention. On Saturday, October 21st at 10 a.m., I'm saying this with my good friend and colleague, Councilman McElroy, there'll be a new business opening right at the border of Ward 3 and in Ward 4 called Now and Then Sports Collectibles. Joe Cabral, who is a neighbor of mine and a very good friend, He is opening the business at 1728 Warwick Avenue, and he's having a grand opening. There'll be food trucks and different things for the kids to do and enjoy. Once again, another small business opening in Warwick. We wish them the best. Also on Saturday, October 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. is the annual Sand Pond Spooky Path. Wander the haunted paths by the citizens of Sand Pond. They set it up. And visit the creatures that live on the banks of Sand Pond. All ages events, tricks and treats for the little ones. Costumes are absolutely welcome. Comfortable shoes are definitely suggested. There is a $5 donation requested, however, not required. Parking will be on Puritan Drive and the entrance at the Sand Pond Road and Puritan Drive beach entrance. And one more, Mr. President. On also Saturday, October 28th from 12 to 3 p.m., the Elizabeth Gray Foundation will have the 2023 Dress Your Dog Howl-O-Ween competition. It is a family event. A $20 donation is requested. Will be grill, hamburger, hot dogs, chips, and beverages. There'll be a 50-50. That will be at Shannon View Inn under the huge tent at 1901 Post Road in Warwick, Rhode Island. You may sign up in person or visit www.elizabethgrayfoundation.org. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Travis.
Yes, this Wednesday, October 18th, from 6 to 8, there's going to be a Tori Lynn Andriozzi Foundation is going to present a conversation about impaired driving, the law, and a call to action. This is going to be have a lot of our people that are going to be speaking from all the different departments about drunk driving and what it does and how it affects the families. Our own Colonel Connors will be there, and there'll be at least 7 speakers that can give me information out. So this is going to be Wednesday, October 18th at Warwick Veterans Middle School Auditorium.
Thank you, Councilwoman. You're welcome. Any additional items under general communications? Councilwoman Travis.
I wanted to do a moment of silence for Ted Sano's wife, Lois, passed away Thursday. So this is for the Lois Sano.
Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Anybody else for general communications? Okay, we'll move on to executive communications. There are none. A is the acceptance of the minutes from the council meeting held on October 2nd. Councilman Howe?
Favorable action on
the minutes, second by Councilman McElroy and Councilman Foley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Passes. Excuse me. Next up is public comment, Rule 41. After general communications and prior to the consent calendar at the last regularly scheduled meeting of the City Council each month, there shall be a period of time not to exceed 30 minutes during which citizens may comment about Warwick city government issues subject to the following stipulations. The total period of time for public comment shall not exceed 30 minutes. Comments need to be brief in order to allow as many citizens as possible to participate. Each citizen signed up and present shall have not to exceed 5 minutes to speak, provided, however, that if more than 6 citizens are signed up and present, the 30 minutes will be split evenly amongst speakers. Time shall not be transferable among speakers. The topics for comments shall be issues directly affecting city government. City council members will not respond to questions during the public comment period. The public comment session will terminate at the expiration of the earlier of the speakers concluding their allotted time or 30 minutes. Waiver of this provision requires a unanimous vote of the council. We have 2 individuals who have signed up this evening. First off is Richard L.
Richard Langseth, Budlong Farm Road in Warwick. On November 14th, there's going to be a Harbor Commission workshop for rights of way Councilman Lattiser is to be congratulated for his work to get this together. What we're going to talk about is the rights of way, and people on both sides are going to be presenting their arguments. One side being myself, of course, when it comes to the Buttonwoods Fire District, and the Fire District will probably respond with their comments to the contrary. We will have perhaps a cross-examination of facts, and then the Harbor Commission will move on to other topics. I just want to bring the City Council up to speed on what the issue is at the Buttonwoods Fire District when it comes to rights of way. In 1985, there was Hurricane Gloria. It almost destroyed Promenade Avenue. And in early 1986, the Buttonwoods Fire District appropriated funds, federal funds, to fix the highway in front of it. And now the Buttonwoods Fire District is claiming that it's a private road, even though public funds were expended. There are two kinds of taxes in the city. There are taxes which we normally pay for our houses and our businesses and all that kind of thing. But there's also taxes that are paid when somebody like the Sewer Authority puts in sewers. They charge per foot taxes for the people who build the sewers, right? Those are taxes too. Now, what happens is if those taxes are not high enough, the Sewer Authority has to move its funding forward to the next group of people. For instance, when Buttonwoods was built for sewers, the tax was like $60 a linear foot. And the fire district and the beach association said, that's it. Although the actual cost at that point was $82. They convinced the Sewer Authority and the City Council that they could get it for, 25% less. That's a burden on the people of Warwick going forward. And for that, one would expect that the people get access to these roads, which they are in advance funding. Well, I want to remind everybody that the Beach Association does pay taxes. However, it doesn't. The entity that pays the taxes is the fire district. Now, can you believe that there's a private corporation built by a developer corporation owned by shareholders that gets a municipality, the fire district, to pay its taxes? And then it turns around and says, oh, we're private. This just simply does not add up. So these are the contentious arguments that we're going to be talking about at the Harbor Commission, and eventually it's going to come before the City Council, and I'm going to keep harping, about these kinds of issues, because things are changing now. There are 7,500 members in our Facebook group, Saving Rhode Island Coastal Access. They're very active, especially in Westerly and some South County places, but they're also very active in Warwick. And so the people in Warwick are rising, and they're saying, we want coastal access. And what's happening in Warwick, as we all know, new people are moving in. And many of these new people are from the Boston area. These are people who are moving to Warwick, not just because of education, but because of the shoreline. They actually say, well, let's move to Warwick. Let's move south of Providence to Warwick because they have a beautiful shoreline. And then when they get here, they find out that the city of Warwick has 61 streets where there's no parking next to the shore. 61 streets. And many of these are just from the beginning of summer to the end of summer. You have 1 minute, Mr. Langseth. Okay. So the argument is, well, we have to have no parking because it's a safety reason. Well, it's not a safety reason because they can have parking all year round except in the summer. Now, how does that work out? We were driving down Capron Farm Road, not Capron, down Nausauket Road yesterday during the Patriots game. I could hardly get through. An F-100 could not get through. So many people on Nausauket watching the football game. Okay, it's in the fall. In the summer, nobody can go to the beach because it's not safe. But in the fall, everybody can just park anywhere and enjoy themselves and go to their games at their friends' houses. That's all okay. So I just want to bring to your attention a few of these things that we're going to be discussing in detail at the Harbor Commission meeting, and I would appreciate everybody from the City Council to go to this. We had 45 members of the public at the last one. We're probably going to have more at this one, and it's a real good public engagement. And Jody King is to be congratulated for pulling all this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Rob C.
Cody Ward 7, excuse me. So at the September 18th meeting, I was a little concerned because I sat and I watched Councilman McAllister and Councilman Howe violate and manipulate a couple of the city council rules. So I thought I'd bring it to your attention. So the first part of the public hearing, which was of the largest expenditure the city's ever seen of $350 million in schools, we had a public hearing, and Councilman Lattisaw requested from the finance chairman, Mr. Howe, to suspend the rules. Mr. Howe refused to suspend the rules, and that would be Rule 20. As you know, Rule 20 limits everybody from speaking for 10 minutes. But what it also does, if you read the rule and you actually understand it as a council member, it says that Warwick residents may participate in that discussion. Not residents from North Kingstown, not residents from Narragansett. But Mr. Howe allowed people from out of the city to make comment. Actually, there were people from out of state, from the union memberships, that actually made comment. So the point is, do we pick and choose what portions of the rules that we're going to enforce to simply control the dialogue? I wonder, where was the council solicitor to weigh in on the manipulation of the rules? And the second portion, which has never happened before in the history of Warwick during the open mic, is that Councilman Howe decided that he was going to speak at Rule 41 as a private citizen. Well, Mr. Howe, I'm sorry to remind you, but you no longer are a private citizen once you become elected. You're an elected official. And the Council Rule 41 specifically states that council members shall not comment. So the question I have, maybe this is for the council solicitor, do we set a new precedent here? Is anybody from the council now going to be able to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm taking my hat off from the council chambers. Only on this side of the fence am I a council member, an elected official. I'm going to go behind the podium and now I'm going to be a private citizen? Is that what we're going to do? Because you've set a precedent now, Mr. McAllister, by allowing him to do that. And you know as well as I do that whether he's on this side of the railing or on the other side of the railing, he's no longer a private resident. He's an elected official. And he's a city council member, which your rule specifically states that cannot comment or answer questions. And what he was trying to defend was the point that I brought up, that I had found out from the National Marine Archives that the guy in the corner office got thrown out of the Marine Corps. So he, in an attempt to try to discredit me, was allowed to go back, violate Rule 41, direct violation of the verbiage of Rule 41, and try to combat facts that I brought to you on official city documents, official government documents for that fact. So I would suggest that the council members take a moment to read the council rules by which they were bound, read them, try to understand them, and if you don't, which was obvious on September 18th, you should ask the council solicitor. And if the council solicitor doesn't understand them, we have a problem. And I really have questions as to whether or not he understands the rules after what happened on July 23rd when my First Amendment was violated and he did nothing. He, above all people, should have said, time out. You can't do this. You're violating the First Amendment and you're going to put us in a situation of litigation, which is exactly what's happened. So I would implore you all to do your homework and study the rules so you actually know the content of the rules that you're abiding this council by. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the consent calendar. First up is PCR 112-23, resolution relative to bids, committee report, finance.
Favorable action.
For action, Councilman Howe.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Foley. Go ahead, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bid 2024-248, bid 2024-116, 2024-244, 2024-247, 2024-243, 2023-318 Alpha, 2024-246, 2024-249, 2024-158. That concludes the consent calendar on bids, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions or comments from members of the council that were not asked earlier this evening in Finance Committee? Okay, that is the only thing that's on the consent calendar. So the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi? Yes. Ms. Travis?
Yes.
8 yes, consent passes.
Thank you. The consent calendar passes. I believe two items were pulled from the consent calendar. Councilman Howe.
Yes, Mr. President. They were recommended favorable action. So it was bid 2024-223, crack ceiling contract is now PCR 113-23 as amended. Favorable action.
Okay, and you're going to change the amount to 115,000?
Yes, Mr. President, the request was to change the total amounts for, increase it $40,000 and, because it's 1/3 matched by the state, therefore increasing the total to $115,000.
Okay, we'll take that as an amendment, as a motion. Do we have a second to that? Second by Councilman Foley. Any questions or comments on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll on the amendment.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi?
Yes.
Ms. Travis?
Yes.
8 yes to amend.
Thank you. Councilman Howe, would you like to move it favorable as amended?
Move favorable as amended.
Second by Councilman Foley. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action as amended.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi?
Yes.
Ms. Travis?
Yes.
8 yes as amended.
Thank you. Motion passes. The second item that was pulled, Councilman Howe.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was bid 2024-245. The monthly service and maintenance for composting toilets is now PCR 114-23 as amended. Favorable action.
And you're looking to go for 2 years at a new total of $12,000?
Yes, Mr. President, it was an increase of $5,800 from $6,200 to $12,000 and increased the time from 1 to 2 years.
All right, we'll take that as a motion, and we have a second by Councilman Foley. Any questions, or Councilwoman Travis? Any questions or comments on the amendment? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action on the amendment.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi?
Yes.
Ms. Travis?
Yes.
8 yes to amend.
Thank you. Councilman Howe, would you like to move that favorable action as amended?
Move PCR 114-23 as amended.
Second by Councilman Foley and Councilwoman Travis. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action as amended.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser? Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Sinapi?
Yes.
Ms. Travis?
Yes.
8 yes as amended. Motion passes.
Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Councilman Howe.
Thank you.
Next up is PCO 20-23, an ordinance amending the City of Warwick zoning ordinances. Committee report, land use.
Recommend public hearing.
Okay, Councilman McElroy
Move favorable action, Mr. President.
for a public hearing.
Yes.
Second by Councilman Ricks, Councilman Howe. Okay, all those in favor to move into a public hearing? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So at this time, we're going to ask if there's anyone here to present PCO 20-23. And then we will have a presentation from the petitioners, and we will have an opportunity for members of the council to ask questions on that. Then I will ask the public if there are members of the public that would like to speak in favor of this. Then we'll have an opportunity for members of the public who would like to speak against this. And then we'll have another opportunity if members of the public just like to be heard on this. So at this time, is there anyone here to present PCO 20-23? Okay. And then we have the stenographer here, so I ask everyone to please identify themselves, speak slowly and into the microphone.
Good evening, Tom Kravitz, the City Planning Director. To my left is Dan Geegan, the Deputy Planner. I got to take a second to say that Dan has done a ton of work related to not only this particular cell tower agreement that we'll talk about later, but all the other agreements came up for expiration, and he renegotiated all of them. Did a tremendous job on that. So this is just one of the other projects. As you know, this tower, for some bizarre reason, electrically caught fire and had to be replaced. There was a temporary tower there for about a year and a half or so, and we were able to work with, and Dan actually put out the RFP to construct a new tower in this facility just adjacent to the field. One of the reasons, primary reason really, it was relocated to be notched out inside the wood line is because the field was initially constructed with National Park Service money, and we were strongly encouraged by DEM. Really, the original tower really shouldn't have been put there in the first place, so we elected to put it right off, and we had city property just to the southeast of it, with the tree line actually providing at least 2/3 of some cover. So we thought that was the most appropriate thing to do. The planning board endorsed this. You have their positive advisory. George Watson is here to my right. He's representing the applicant and can answer any questions you have. But it's pretty straightforward. We know that this is going to greatly enhance what is existing poor service in this part of the city. So that's something that I think all the residents will appreciate. At least that's what we've heard up to this point, certainly through the planning board and whatnot. So with that, I'll just be here for questions if there are any.
Thank you, Director. Councilman McElroy, this is in your ward. Any questions or comments?
No, I move favorable action as something that is sorely needed in the area. It will greatly improve cell phone service, and I wholeheartedly approve it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of the council? Councilman Lattiser.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to ask the representative from Verizon, so with this new tower, and I concur with Councilman McElroy, I represent Ward 5, just so that you know, and we have 3 or 4 areas on Warwick Avenue, total drop-offs. I have the same thing on West Shore Road. I get complaints down on Tidewater and essentially throughout in my area. So my understanding is that the new tower is going to be slightly taller, and I particularly am hoping to hear from you that we can all rest assured that our service in that area will be increased.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is George Watson. I'm attorney of Robinson & Cole, and we are outside counsel for Verizon Wireless, Cellco Partnership, DBA Verizon Wireless. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and want to begin by saying that the original tower was not ours. Just want to get that on the record. So this tower will be slightly taller. It's going to be 120 feet tall, and that allows for 3 carriers to go on it. So Verizon will be on top, so we'll have the best coverage because the higher you are, the better the coverage, but there'll also be 2 additional carriers on there. I do have with me tonight, we have Keith Volante from C Square, and also Sylvester Bembe from, yes, it's VELLANTE. C, the letter C Square. And then Sylvester Bembe, BHEMBE from TEP. And so as far as the coverage maps, Mr. Volante can speak to the coverage maps and what, how the service will be different with this, how Verizon service will be different with this structure. I can't speak to the other carriers, and I'm not an engineer, so I can't tell you that information directly. But
Thank you. And just please introduce yourself for the record.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Keith Valente, V as in Victor, ELLANTE, with C Squared Systems. Business address is 65 Dartmouth Drive, Auburn, New Hampshire. As part of the materials we prepared, as for this proposal is Verizon, we prepared a radio frequency report that described Verizon's network in the area and how the proposed site would fill in a gap in coverage and a need for their network. That report's dated August 8th, 2023. But in that, at the end, there's a set of coverage maps. What the site will do is provide substantial coverage along West Shore Road, out towards Connemycut Point Park, as well as Church Ave, Sandy Lane, that whole area of town. The coverage gap as it stands today is quite sizable. The single facility isn't going to fill the entire area, but it does fill a substantial portion of it. Roughly 7,000 residents in the area would have adequate coverage that do not at present from Verizon's network. Welcome.
Any other questions or comments from members of the council? Okay, at this time, for the public hearing, I'm going to ask, are there any members of the public that would like to speak in favor of this project? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak in favor of this project? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak in favor of this project? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak against this project? Just please come up to the microphone and identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Paul Blakesley. I live in the city of Warwick. I'm here to object to this zone change. It's called a zone change. Just going to speak into the mic. I'm a bit confused by it, and I'm not a public speaker, and I really don't know where to start. But I was here back in 2022 when this council approved a solar ordinance, and every member here stood up and bragged about making democracy work. That solar ordinance was to protect open space. Something that was obvious at the meeting was that there was a big public push for the protection of open space as represented by that ordinance. And this council fell all over themselves to make sure that it got done, and that's great. However, following that, the same council refused to put a referendum, a bond issue, on the ballot for money for the protection and purchase of open space in the city of Warwick. And so this issue with this zoning change is about open space. And I personally do not understand why the city of Warwick is using public spaces to do business with private enterprises. It seems to me that they're perfectly capable of finding places that are not going to impact public open space, land owned by the city of Warwick. I understand that the city is obligated to help telecommunications find sites. And I understand that. This project goes back to 1998 when the zoning board approved the construction of a tower that was supposed to be 75 feet tall. And they did not change zoning. The zoning was open space. And I don't know what the zoning ordinance looked like at that time, but they approved it, and they approved a tower that was taller than was allowed in that district. But they did not change the zoning. Now the city is The city is asking to change the zoning of this, but there is no zoning district for it. They're asking for a change in zoning from open space to open space A-611. And in my study of the zoning ordinance, I don't find any zoning in the ordinance, any A-611 in the ordinance. So I'm confused. Are we meeting here tonight to approve a zoning change? And if so, what are the requirements for this zone? There's nothing presented about what this zone is, what its rules and regulations are, and so forth. And it's kind of curious because if they were really making a zoning change, they'd also change the rules about setbacks, height, and screening and everything else, so they wouldn't be asking for all the variances that they're asking for in this zone change. And the other thing about it is that I find all kinds of errors in the, well, I don't know if they're errors or not, but I find all these discrepancies in the material that's been presented to this council to make a big decision with. Well, I think it's a big decision to make a decision with. The names of the streets are mislabeled. The address of the project is not what it says it is in the application. The maps that they show, which are the proposed zoning plot plan, they show an area where there's this open space A611 is shown, and it consists of 4 lots. And the legal descriptions of those 4 lots are listed in another document, but the application is for 5 lots. One of the lots that's not shown on the map is the biggest one, 5.3 acres, which is the ball field itself, which is where the tower was located and where the current, what's the acronym they have for it, is the cow. That's where the cow is located. And evidently that location is not any good because of DEM. I think that was referred to earlier. I'm not quite sure of what that's about. So anyway, they're asking for this change the zone with faulty documentation and making a zoning change to accept telecommunication towers in a zone, open space, which is strictly prohibited. The zoning ordinance that we look at today says no, there'll be no cell towers in this zone. And there's no special permit exception, and there's another, I forget the wording of it, but it has to do with another sort of approval, which is granted in other zones, but it's not granted, it's not part of open space. So I guess what I'm saying is you people need to look at the documentation, because if you're making a legal decision, you got a problem. And of course, the fact that you're moving it from open space that's already been developed into a ball field and has been there for many, many years, and taking it and moving it into wooded area that separates the ball field from a residential area, and those trees are going to get chopped down to do this. I don't know if you have to do it on public land, do it where it's already developed and where it's already open and put the damn tower up. And the restriction on height, in this residential area around it, which is part of the 611 use designation, the description of telecommunications facilities.
You have 1 minute, sir.
What? I'm sorry, what was that?
You have 1 minute left.
The height restriction in that neighborhood is 35 feet. This tower is going to be 120 feet. A minor height adjustment, as they referred to earlier, goes from a 75-foot tower to a 120-foot tower in this open space, which is supposed to be open space for the public and not developed. I don't know. I hope you people come to your senses and say, yeah, let's look for this somewhere else. Like maybe in the fire department just down the road, maybe they have a little square where this tower can be built. Or maybe even in the mayor's backyard. Maybe he can hang Christmas lights on it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Director Kravitz, would you like to answer any of those or respond at this time?
Tom Kravitz, City Planning Director. The executive powers rest with the council to approve this with the exceptions related to the ordinance. What we're talking about in the memorandum that we sent to the council was dated August 16th, 23. Those exceptions are from sections 506. That's the cell tower ordinance in effect. And while I appreciate what the resident is saying about, of course, you don't want to put cell towers in open space zoned areas. The tower has been here for years. The fall radius works. It's been there. So it's an area where we know it works. And again, the power rests with the council to approve it. So that's really all. I think it is the best place given this situation. If this was happening from day one and there was nothing there, we'd probably look at it differently. But it's an existing condition we're trying to fix. That's really all I have.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals that would like to speak against this project? Are there any other members of the public here that would like to speak against this project? Are there any other individuals who would like to speak against this project? Are there any members of the public that would like to be heard on this topic? Are there any members of the public that would like to be heard? Last call. Is there any members of the public that would like to be heard on this topic? Okay, hearing none, can I get a motion to close the public hearing? Councilman Foley?
Move to close public hearing.
Second by Councilman Ricks, Councilman Howe, and Councilman McElroy. Okay. Any additional questions or comments, Councilman Sinapi?
So
I'm sorry, we have to vote that. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Councilman Sinapi.
To the resident's point, some of the documentation does show that in the responses from the various departments, one of the department heads did point out the address should not be 176 Winter, it should be 122 Winter. And it pointed out that 176 is a private residence. And when you look at the GIS, that's true. 176 Winter is in fact somebody's house, whereas 122 Winter Avenue seems to be the plot in question that they were trying to get to, because that's city land.
Do you have a motion or anything on that? Or just
I'm no land use expert, so I assume Director Kravitz has commentary on this one way or another.
I would defer to the map and lots listed, if in fact that was a mistake. Yeah, we acknowledge the mistake in the address and we'll rest on the proper map and lots also listed in the advertisement, which I think are plat 332 lots 396, 397, 402, 403, and 470.
Okay, can you just repeat that, Director? I know you're looking for something. I just want to get.
No, I acknowledge the mistake in the address, but I would rest on the maps and lots listed in the other advertisements, the approval of the planning board, that they're the correct map and lots.
So you're comfortable with how it's drafted at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Sinabi?
I'm just trying to check. I see assessors plat 332, and I do see lot 470 on the lot in question, the one that's supposed to be the correct one. So that those two are called out on the documentation. So as long as it's fine for us to vote on from the solicitor's angle, then I'm fine with it.
Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. Yes, I would also like to get some clarification on the point that Councilman Snappy raised regarding the making sure that the notices were in compliance, both the notices that went out to the butters as well as the notices in relation to this particular public hearing. I also just wanted to add that I don't believe that the member of the public brought up this item in particular, but on him raising a concern about some of the labeling on the map, I did notice that there are two different streets parallel to each other on the map that was provided, both labeled Ardway Avenue. And so I am not very familiar with Connecticut, but I wanted to just raise that to make sure that that was not also an error. I don't think that that would necessarily be as serious an error as the mislabeling, or if it was mislabeling, or if the wrong numbers were included in the notices or on the agenda themselves. But if the issues that Councilman Snappy raised are also, if there would be an impediment created by those, then I would also just suggest that the map and the names of those various streets also just be checked. Thank you.
Director?
Yeah, and looking at it more closely, I think what's important is there are 4 lots where the new tower is going to be. It's 396, 397, 402, and 403. And those lots are correctly listed. So the other stuff we're talking about is perhaps a bit superfluous by way of additional information. We have the right lots, and we have additional information that is perhaps mislabeled, but it's important that we have the 4 lots on that are going to be the location of the tower, in my opinion.
Solicitor Walsh?
I think if we look at the underlying ordinance that was the PCO 2023, the discrepancy about the specific number, even though we're dealing with multiple lots here and multiple streets, is not on the underlying PCO. The descriptions of Winter Avenue and Loring Avenue are additional identificators to trying to give the general public awareness of the general vicinity, but the legal parameters that we're dealing with are the changes of the assessor's plat and lots that have been disclosed and presented in all the underlying documents, but most importantly in the PCO that's before you this evening.
Mr. President. Any additional questions? Councilman Lattiser.
Mr. President, just for a clarification, I believe that the resident that spoke to us before has not been to a city council meeting in quite some time. He appeared to not be familiar with the 10-minute rule, as an example. And I know he's trying to draw your attention now to be recognized again. So I think perhaps you might want to just explain to him, if you could, what the rules are regarding public hearing. I don't want the resident to feel as though he's being ignored or neglected. Thank you.
So as Councilman Lattiser points out, we had the public hearing, and then that was the vote that we took to close the public hearing. So now at this time, it would just be council members that are able to address and ask questions. However, I will ask if there's any objections. We do have one individual that is here. He would like to say one more thing. Is I would give him additional 2 more minutes to have his say. If there's any objections from the council on that, hearing any. So with no objections, so moved. So sir, we'll give you 2 additional minutes on this. We're kind of suspending the rules on this to give you 2 additional minutes.
Thank you. A very quick point. The drawings that have been proposed of this proposed project don't show the entire area that's being subject to this zone change. And that reflects also in the radius or map, which is everyone within 200 feet, I think is the rule, is required to be notified of a public hearing or whatever the zoning board is doing and all of that. There's a 200 feet from all edges of the property. That's not reflected in the drawings that have been presented, which means that a big portion of the population that lives around this project haven't been notified. And to me, that really blows this public hearing. And the other thing is that we're asking for a change of zone from one zone to another zone, which is not in the zoning ordinance. And it seems to me that that would be the first order of business of this council, would be to create a new zoning or a new zone called open space A-611, if that's what you want to call it, and you need to define it. And that's not been done. So you're asking to change to a zone that has no requirements.
Yeah.
This just doesn't seem legal to me. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, just so we're all on the same page, I believe that the director is comfortable with what is before us, and the solicitor is as well. So I just want to go ahead, Director.
Yeah, one quick thing. I was speaking with Dan. When you Google Clegg Field, it comes up at 176 Winter Avenue. And it's interesting. That's how we even reference it on the city's website. So shame on us for not double checking Google, but I think that's where the error came from, which is just interesting. And I was just talking to Mr. Watson, and it's his recommendation that we probably don't have to list lot 470 in the resolution, because that's the actual bigger play field. So technically, we don't need to put that lot in the resolution. If you wanted to strike it, that would be fine.
Councilman Sinapi.
So that might not be a bad idea, because the abutters that were reached out to, 470 is not on the list for the lots. It's all the other ones, 396, 397, 402, and 403. So technically, the abutters for 470 weren't contacted, but apparently they didn't need to be, because this didn't need to be part of it.
We did that deliberately to try to reach out to more people, thinking that's the right thing to do. Even though we didn't have to do the abutter radius from 470, it is a tower, so.
Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. And I think that, also reviewing that abutters list as well as the radius map in Exhibit 3, so comparing Exhibits 3 and 5, it certainly looks to me like reasonable notice went out, even if superfluously, as you put it, there was that wrong or incorrect reference number as to Winter Ave. it seems that certainly the required legal notice of specifying those precise lots, that went out properly. And there was also the reference to Clegg Field. So I think that it appears to me that the notice went out to the right people. And more than that, it went out to additional people, which is always a good thing. And then it also appears that the people were put sufficiently on notice of where this tower specifically is to be constructed. So I think that the member of the public commenting on the use code itself may not be familiar with the zoning ordinance in this regard. So it being designated as open space with the use code of 611, that certainly does not create a Wild West situation here, but rather specifically designates this area as remaining as open space. However, specifically allowing for a telecommunication facility, including towers, which is exactly what is being proposed here. So if I'm mistaken on that, one of the attorneys can please correct me. But based on what I'm seeing here, I think that some good points were raised, and I think it's important for us to, of course, do our due diligence to make sure that the notice is proper, everything conforms with the legal requirements. And after this discussion, I'm satisfied that it seems that those legal requirements were met in this situation.
Thank you. Councilman McElroy?
I go with my first inclination. I move favorable passage on this.
Second by Councilman Foley, Councilman Ricks, Councilman Howe. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll for favorable action.
Mr. McAllister?
Yes.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Mr. Howe?
Yes.
Mr. Lattiser?
Yes.
Mr. McElroy?
Yes.
Mr. Ricks?
Yes.
Mr. Snappy?
Yes.
Ms. Trapp?
Yes.
8 yes, first passage.
Thank you for first passage. Thank you. Thank you, Director. We're now moving on to unfinished business. First up is PCR 63-23, Committee Report, Public Safety.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilman Foley.
Move favorable action on the claim of Leah DeLeon. Councilman Ricks, can you help me on that? What was the exact dollar amount? I'm sorry.
$263.59.
Correct.
Okay, do we have a second for that? Second by Councilman Ricks and Councilman McElroy. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in committee? Councilman Lattiser.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, given my observations with what's been going on with these claims, my question is, perhaps maybe the committee should start reviewing all of these claims, because it appears that more often than not, the committee is overruling the decision from the Director of Public Works. So why are we having him go through that exercise when it's just being overturned? Perhaps instead of having him go through that exercise, he might be able to better direct his time and energy into other issues that we have in all of our wards. So just a suggestion and just my observation with what's been occurring with these claims. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilman Foley.
As the president of council knows and the council solicitor know, I have been in communication with the solicitor looking at a way to make this more efficient and more effective so that these issues don't come in front of the committee. So I have been proactive in working and trying to work on a solution to the issues raised by other members of the council. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on PCR 63-23? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action. Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
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 Thank you. Motion passes. We're now moving on to new business. First up is PCO 21-23 Committee Report Ordinance. So a motion to withdrawn. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Ricks. Any questions or comments on this? Hearing none, favorable. The vote for favorable action is to withdraw. The clerk will call the roll. Yes.
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 Thank you. Next up is PCR 109-23 Committee Report Intergovernmental.
Favorable action, Mr. President.
For action, Councilman Foley.
Move favorable action.
Second by Councilman Howe and Councilman Lattiser. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action. Yes.
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 Thank you. Motion passes. Next up is PCR 110-23. Okay. Committee report, public properties.
Recommend favorable action.
For action, Councilman McElroy.
Recommend favorable action.
Second by Councilman Howe, Councilman Ricks, Councilman Foley. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in committee? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action. Yes.
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 Thank you. Motion passes. Number 4 this evening is PCR 111-23 Committee Report Intergovernmental.
Favorable action, Mr. President.
Councilwoman Travis, can you move this for me, please? Second by Councilman Lattiser, Councilman Foley, Councilman McElroy. Any questions or comments that were not asked earlier this evening in committee? Hearing none, the clerk will call a roll for favorable action. Yes.
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 Thank you. Motion passes. Ward 1, anything to docket under unanimous consent?
Pass.
Ward 2.
Pass.
Ward 3.
Pass.
Ward 4.
Pass.
Ward 5. Ward 6. Ward 7 passes. Ward 8. Councilwoman Travis. All those in favor of moving to docket session say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are now in the docket session. Ward 1, anything to docket this evening?
No, thank you.
Ward 2.
Pass.
Ward 3.
Pass.
Ward 4.
Pass.
Ward 5. Ward 6. Ward 7 passes. Ward 8. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.